What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I figured I'd go into tomorrow's games and do a recap of how we did today. It's an interesting week, as far as not only we got a couple swerves, of course, which if you had the Texans beating down the Browns and the Packers beating down the Cowboys, good call. Obviously, I'm sure a few people did, but something I didn't really see. As far as Dallas, of course, I always say Dallas is going to Dallas, so that one still surprises me less than the Browns, but still something I thought was relatively safe. And the Lions, we got that one. We got the Chiefs, of course. Unfortunately, with parlays, might as well go 0-4 if you parlay them, which I did advise just because I thought we were going to see some win no covers, which is what happened with the Lions. So, like, the only way we would have been able to catch that is if we knew to parlay that with the Chiefs. So that would have been like the best play. But today, obviously, we missed our parlay because I had at least Lions, just Dallas on the money line, and obviously we missed that one. So not a great day, and I'll be the first to admit it. As far as just picking who's going to advance, we're 2-2, so it's nothing crazy, uh, and it hasn't stopped. But of course, it's not going to stop people from voicing their opinion, which I always appreciate. I never mind somebody coming in here to, rub it in real good because they were right, and everybody has every right to do that. I never mind it. It's always in good fun. And I've definitely heard people's opinion for the most part. So again, when I'm right, people say great job, and when I'm wrong, I'm going to catch flack. So if it's your first time watching or 50th time watching, I'm sure you know that. So I'm never one to act like, oh well, it's because they changed the script and stuff like that. And there must be a lot of people saying that because a lot of new people, like, it's their first time on the channel, and they'll say something to that effect where they're like, oh, they must have changed the script because you're wrong. And I don't know where that's coming from. Again, it might be other channels that do it. Another thing that I genuinely believe is there's this fallacy going around, and I always question the person when they bring it to my attention because some people will approach and they'll really, I feel like they just have this one in the holster. They can't wait to use it, and we'll miss a game like today with the Cowboys, and it's always one guy in the room, like the guy at the party who just turns off the music and everyone, nobody wants him there. But there's always one guy that comes on to the channel and they're like, you got that one wrong, so I guess it can't be scripted, huh? And I feel like they just feel like they got that knockout punch, that, Lennox Lewis complete knockout punch. And they don't really consider that wrestling is scripted. And I always ask the same people, and they usually just never respond. To pick a wrestling card, like WrestleMania coming up, let me know who's going to win the Intercontinental Championship, who's going to win between Jimmy and Jay, who's going to be the killer in the next Scream movie. And usually they don't have an answer because things can be scripted with results that we don't know what are going to happen. So yeah, I almost prefer just the clown emoji, which I get them, of course, too, than the people that fall back on that fallacy, because I feel like it's just such it's a fallacy by design, but it's one that nobody can really explain to me. But yeah, it's just one. Like I said, I've been called everything under the sun you could imagine with the kind of channel that we have. But the one I never got is when somebody says, "Oh, it's if you don't get every single one of them right, then by de facto it can't be scripted." And again, they can't. When I ask them to let me know who's gonna win the Royal Rumble or the WrestleMania, Rumble's pretty easy. Punk's winning that. But as far as just calling a WrestleMania card, they never respond and tell me who's gonna even be matched up against each other, because they do a good job of, in my opinion, swerving people. If it was that obvious, then we'd all be rich. But anyway, didn't want to go on like a diatribe there. Just wanted to like address that because I get that the most from people, I guess, where outside of people that just say, "Oh, you were wrong. My day is better now." The people that genuinely believe it's real, that's their go-to. Is, oh well, if it was scripted, you should know every result. And to that again, I bring up the WWE logic or Scream or who's going to win on America's Got Talent. We don't know because you can script something and make it where the people still don't know. So anyway, I digress from that. I just thought I would cover that. So again, not terrible. It's just the fact that we did parlays that didn't help us. But as far as being over the target, we missed two, we got two. Of course, you could say the Chiefs was kind of obvious, but you could say that about all of them. And same with the Lions. I think the Lions, another one where. And we knew they were going to try and get us with the win no cover. I did my best to avoid it, but like quicksand, sometimes just couldn't avoid it. Had to take our spanking today, so we went with the parlay. That didn't work. The spread wouldn't have worked either. Like I said, a few plays would have. So all we can do is use the information to our best. The one again for the NFC side, I think this bodes very good for the Niners because we know the Packers aren't doing anything. Let's be honest. Real scripted, however you want to look at it, we can all agree the Packers aren't doing anything. So it really just leaves one team that could, in my opinion, usurp the Niners, which would be the Lions, which is my NFC Championship pick. So that's looking online. I don't think the Lions will do it, but my point is, with the Cowboys out, it'll make it very interesting. I don't, I think the Niners are basically going to be the team gridlocked there, and I think it's still looking good for the Ravens. As far as tomorrow, Steelers Bills, I do like the Bills cover. It's not one I love, but I'm playing the Bills cover. We haven't had we had the Chiefs, and that wasn't even like a crazy beatdown. The only beatdowns we've seen have been the favorite team being beat down. So this would be the first time that the underdog gets beat down, and I think that's what we get. So I do think the Steelers will cover the 10 points. And I like the under too. I liked it a lot more when it was at like 34, because that was just too good to be true. There's no way people weren't pounding that over. That's probably why it moved as much as it did. But you can see where it started, and it's almost back there. It's basically split in the middle of where, because it was like 42-32, and now it's at 38, at 38 and a half. I still like the under. Anytime you have Josh Allen on the field, if it's set in the 30s, I don't care if it's a hailstorm in Antarctica, I still think people are going to be taking the over here. So I think the game goes under. I like the under more than I like the cover, but I like both. I like the Bills cover and I like the under, which leaves us with, in my opinion, this is the game that I've had the most trouble with. I know a lot of people are telling me the same thing, and it's not without reason. You have the Eagles, who have looked pretty pathetic going into the postseason, versus the Bucs, who you could argue, okay, why would they advance the Bucs, especially if they advanced Green Bay? It would make no sense to knock out the Packers and Cowboys. I'm sorry, the Cowboys and Eagles in the same week. And to that, I bring up last year. I do remember pretty vividly. It's foggy and vivid because I remember what happened. Basically, we went into Wild Card Weekend, and there was like two or three games where people were just kind of thrown for a loop, and one of them was just like the officiating was so bad. It was when Pat McAfee was talking about it, and another one was just an unexpected game, and we had a few of them in the playoffs just to start last year, where week 18 we basically knew what was going to happen, and then we missed a few. So I don't think it's by accident. Again, I'm not one of those who says every time we miss a game they change the script, but I do think there's new things that the NFL will pull out. So, without going on too much of a tangent, I think one of those new things might be you knock out the Cowboys and Eagles right away. And that's what I'm going to settle on. I have the Bucs winning this game. I think Baker's enough of a draw. It's not like it's a team like, again, if you had the Rams, who I just think don't have a draw at all. Maybe, like, who's their draw? Puka? Like, I just don't see it. Some of these teams just don't have a single draw, so I don't think they're doing anything. But Baker is a draw. He really never got a playoff run. I don't think the Eagles are going to do much in the playoffs. And then you combine it with the fact that it looks like a complete trap line. So all four of those things make me really like the Bucs to win this game. It could at some point give us Battle of the Bays, which would be the first pick in the draft versus the last pick in the draft, which would be a really cool matchup. I don't think that's what we get, just because they'd have to go through the Lions and beat them. But either way, it sets up a lot of very interesting matchups. And sure, we could get Niners, Eagles again. I'm not saying we won't. I actually liked it, if you remember, for a good chunk of the season because the way last year ended. But looking at what happened to the Cowboys, looking at some of these upsets, let me get out of this before the ad starts talking over me. Looking at some of these upsets, I do think that it perfectly stands to reason that the Bucs would win too. It's something probably not a lot of people would expect, especially after the Cowboys losing. So I do think there's a really good chance that we're going to see a Bucs upset. And again, basically the tiebreaker on that for me is the line. 3 points just makes no sense. Of all the games, to me, it made the least sense for the Eagles to only be, even without AJ Brown. It just doesn't make sense in my opinion. So yeah, I think the Bucs will get it done. I have the Bucs winning, and I do think the Bills will cover. And I for the over under on the Bucs, I'm not playing it. I don't think there's anything really indicating either way. I like the under on the Bills again because I just don't see people taking Josh Allen in any game not to go over 40 points. So yeah, that's probably my favorite play is that under. But like I said, I do like the Bucs. I like them more and more each game. And you might think with the Cowboys loss, I would like the Eagles more, but I don't. The fact that they set the line at 3 like a week ago and it hasn't moved at all. Meanwhile, every other game spreads moved a little bit is a little bit of a giveaway to me too. So a lot of times when you see that where like a team looks like a trap and the line just never moves, it winds up being a trap. Sometimes it's just a good old fashioned trap. So yeah, I like the Bucs. I know some people are saying like nobody has faith in Philly. I still don't buy that in basically a pick 'em. You know, you're gonna minus 150 plus 150. People are going to be taking the Bucs over the Eagles. That just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, the Bucs could win, and it doesn't really throw off the playoff dynamic too much. Again, I didn't really have the Eagles doing much anyway. I had them losing in the next round in my bracket. But the more I thought about it, and even when I did my bracket, I said how the Bucs and Eagles are interchangeable. I really think the Bucs make more sense. I think Baker, they've been kind of quietly pushing him, but not quite. And with a strong performance, they can just remind us how great Baker is and really have a nice story going in there. So yeah, we have the two quarterbacks, obviously the rookies. We have CJ and Love. Very interesting dynamic there. So we'll have to see what happens again. I think the Packers are just going to get bumped in the next round. I can't. I think they're playing the Niners, so it'd be pretty interesting if they found a way to win that game. Of course, anything can happen. And it is interesting because we went into how someone brought up they're giving us a lot of modern retro games, and the Packers, Cowboys, and Niners are like, if I think of like the last 40 years out of the NFC, who's been the most dominant, basically since the inception of football, it's those three teams. So that's another very interesting dynamic. So yeah, I think that Packers Niners will be fine. We'll go into that when we get to it, but as far as our like crazy upsets, I think we're basically out of them. I don't think we're going to be seeing that happen again, just because you got to make sure the championship games have two draws. You know, you got to have a draw on each side, and something like Lions Packers is not going to work. So we'll see what they do there. But I think we do good tomorrow. I think we'll get the Bucs upset just because, again, the line seems like a trap from the beginning. And I'm liking the under on the Bills and the Bills to cover. 10 points is a decent bit in the weather conditions. Make the Bills look really strong. And then you never know. Then a CJ upset over that Bills team who had won, what, 8 straight or something, rolled through everybody. Either way, it's going to be a great story. So I think the Bills looking really strong makes the most sense. So yeah, let me know what you think. Which picks, obviously. Anyone that posted like their predictions, I try my best to reply and give my opinion and listen to other people's insights. So I know that a few people were saying how they liked Houston. I know a few people were saying how they liked all these different teams. I can't say that many people were telling me Green Bay was going to win. You know, if you did and I didn't see it or I responded and forgot, you feel free to remind me. Again, I never mind somebody letting me know. You know, hey, you were off on this one. It's really the people that swear it's scripted or not scripted, and if it was, there's no way we could miss a game ever. I just feel like that's such a fallacy. And those are like the only arguments I ever see for the people that take such offense with our opinion on this too. It's like not even like we're forcing it down people's throats. They come by freely, and it's not a lot of people, but it's like this. These people all have the same sound bite because I'll get them at any time we split. You know, if we hit every game, of course, you're not going to have people saying it, but if we miss a game, especially if it's like a big score, which is another thing I never got. It's like if I bet 3 units on the Texans or on the Browns and they lose by 90 points, my bankroll doesn't like diminish more with each point that they lose by. But people will be like, "Oh, you lost that game by 30," and it's like, "Well, we just lost the game. It's a loss. Like whether we won by a point or lost by a point or 30 points, never really doesn't affect the bankroll. At the end of the day, it's just making sure we're over the target more than we're not." So yeah, I always appreciate everybody that engages one way or another. We're not going to have 100% happy, positive people and all that, especially considering our sector. But yeah, if somebody wants to have a nice debate about uh, the scripted nature, I'm always down. Again, these people, they seem like hit and runners. Most of them, they'll do the old up. It's scripted. Can't you couldn't have got it wrong if it was scripted. And then when I retort with, okay, then who's winning in the wrestling main event coming up, they just kind of dip. So I don't know. Usually I don't like to use the word trolls and bots because they are real people. Just a lot of real people don't have a lot of time. So I guess coming over here and letting us know that their opinion is what's fun for them, and that's fine. Like I said, we get mostly positive. I'd say 96%. I think is the exact number of the analytics that we get that are positive. But of course, with days like today, we're going to get people that want to come over and be party poopers, which again, never want to shy away, from taking flack when we're wrong. But I just want some justification on this scripted, fallacy. If people think because it's scripted, it means the results are going to be 100%. Then I'm curious, why movies and all these other things can be gambled on Vegas. But yeah, it's very far and few. So yeah, we got two of the teams again as far as advancing, as far as for our playoff brackets, right? Missed two, and both beatdowns, not even close. They didn't even try and tease a comeback. So that's another thing I'm looking for. We haven't had a comeback yet, so we might have a comeback coming up. Obviously, we haven't had any, so it'd be interesting to see that. They gave the Rams a little false comeback, probably to cover the spread. Something I was worried about, but not much you can do. I thought about parlaying and I thought about taking the spread. Both kind of cooked us either way, so it wouldn't have mattered. So yeah, thanks to everybody. Like I said, either way, whether you agree, disagree, I always appreciate everybody, and I always try and engage. And tomorrow, hopefully, we have a better day than today. Hopefully, we can hit two of the three at least. I think we'll wind up. I have a feeling we're definitely going to get the under on that Bills game, and I really like the Bucs cover. I guess of the three, I have like the least conviction in the Bills to cover the 10, but I'm still pretty confident that they're going to do it because again, we haven't had a favorite just beat down their opponents. The Chiefs was, I think, barely qualifies as a beatdown. They outplayed the Dolphins, but they looked pretty sloppy themselves. So you have Josh Allen look really strong, especially with the way they've looked heading into the playoffs. I think that's how they're going to continue. And then yeah, the Bucs. It's technically an upset. It's a 3-point game, but it just seems like a complete trap in my opinion. So we'll have to see. Not to mention, again, you bump out the Eagles and Cowboys. It's something that's pretty unprecedented. It's pretty interesting, and it's something not many people would see coming. And that seems to be the theme of the playoffs. So that's what I'm going to roll with. So take care and happy earnings.